Hi everybody. I'm going to be reading to you again this week from Loser. We're going to be picking up where we left off, and we read a chapter 15 about little Donald Zinkoff and how once he got into 4th grade, it was the chapter called Discovered. And then when we left off, it talked about how the biggest thing that happened was everybody saw him a little bit differently. And the biggest part, it left off saying the first week of June of that year was how he was most profoundly discovered, and it happened during Field Day. So chapter 16 is called Field Day. So that's what this one's all about. Field Day is many years old at Satterfield Elementary. It began as a day of fun, a day of to celebrate spring, an outdoor treat for the students. And Field Day still is fun for the little kids, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders. But for the 4th and 5th graders, the big kids, it is less about fun and more about winning and losing. The little kids take part in events designed just for them. The potato roll, kick the pillow, basketball, boomerang, shadow bonkers. For the big kids, it's races. 10 kinds of races, all of them relays. There's the sack race and the run backwards race and the hop on 1 foot race and the race backwards while sitting on your rear end race. The first 9 races are like that, goofy, unusual. The last race is just a plain race. The big fast kids, it is the only race. Each classroom is divided into 4 teams, 8 teams per grade. Each team has a color, and students compete against those in their own grade. Mr. Yolowitz is the coach. From home, he has brought in strips of dyed material, headbands. Team colors for his classroom are purple, red, green, and yellow. Zinkoff is on the purple team. Before they go out for Field Day, Mr. Yolowitz gathers his students around him and says, I'm rooting for all of you guys. Red, green, purple, yellow. It's those other 4th grade measles I don't like. The kids laugh. He was always telling them that they were better than the other 4th grade class and that they and their teacher, Mrs. Sirota, are measles. Let's go out there today and beat their pants off. They pile hands up into a huddle and explode from the classroom and stampede shrieking down the hallway and into the sunshine. The purple team had 7 members. The best athlete among them was a boy named Gary Hobbin. Tall and long of leg, Hobbin is not only the fastest of the purples, he's probably the fastest kid in all of 4th grade. He is also a take charge kind of kid, and when he says, I'm heading off every race, none of the purples disagree. But when Coach Yolowitz hears about it, he says, nobody runs every race. You rotate so that everyone gets a chance. Everybody does get a chance, but Zinkoff gets less of a chance than the others. He runs the second leg of the race backwards while sitting on your rear end race, or as the kids call it, the hiney hop, and is quickly left behind by the other 7 teams. But Yolanda Perry and Gary Hobbin are the final 2 legs, and they bring the purples back to a rousing victory by a nose, so to speak. In the hop on 1 foot race, even an incredible final leg by Hobbin is not enough to make up the ground that is lost by Zinkoff, whose feet are not always enough to keep him upright. The sight of Zinkoff tilting, tottering, lurching, falling brings howls of laughter and mock cheers from the sidelines. Nevertheless, going into the final event, the purples have the highest point total of any 4th grade team. To win the championship, all they have to do is just not finish last in the big race. Naturally, 6 of the purples have no intention of allowing Zinkoff to even compete. And naturally, Gary Hobbin will run the most important leg, the last leg, the anchor leg, and will propel the purples to glory. But the coach has other ideas. Zinkoff runs anchor, he says to the 7 gathered purples. Everyone turns to stare at Zinkoff, who is doing jumping jacks to keep in shape. Gary Hobbin squawks, What? You run 3rd leg, says the coach. You're going to give him a nice lead. And he goes off to counsel the reds and greens and yellows. 6 purples will glare at Zinkoff. Gary Hobbins balls his fist and he holds it an inch in front of Zinkoff's face. I'm going to give you the biggest lead anybody ever saw, and you better not lose it. I won't lose it, Zinkoff says. I'll save my best till my last, which in fact is not true at all, but Zinkoff imagines it to be, and it sounds like a good thing to say at the time. The big final race is run across the length of the playground, through the yellow dust and the tufted grass. The starters for the 8 fourth grade teams line up at the sliding board and take off to the principal's go. The second runners crouch at the far end, waiting to be tagged on the back by the leadoffs. At the first exchange, the purples are in second place. By the time the second runner tags Haben, they are 5 yards ahead. Haben blasts out of his crouch and he spins dust like a yellow tornado. True to his word, Haben gives Zinkoff such a lead as has not been seen all day. When he tags Zinkoff, the other runners are only halfway down the track. Go! Haben yells, and Zinkoff goes. Zinkoff's legs churn up the dust. His arms whirl like his mother's mixmaster. His face is pinched and grimace, limit of effort. And yet somehow he goes nowhere. When the other anchors take off, he is barely even 10 yards down the track. Run! Run! Haben screams behind him. Unable to contain himself, Haben leaves his place and runs up alongside Zinkoff and screams in his ear, "Run, you dumb turtle, run!" Zinkoff runs and runs, the flap of his headband bobbing behind like a tiny purple tail, and he is still running long after the others have crossed the finish line. Zinkoff comes in dead last. The purples come in last. The purples lose the championship. The purples tear off their headbands. They slam them to the ground. They stomp them into the yellow dust, and Zinkoff is bent over, gasping in his great effort, catching his breath, and Haben comes to him. Zinkoff looks up, and Haben sneers, "You're a loser, a stinkin' loser." Other purples pile on. "Yeah, you stink at everything. Why do you even do stuff?" "Yeah, why do you even get out of bed in the morning?" "He probably even screws that up." One purple shakes his fist. "We could have had medals." They file by. Some whisper the word. Some say it out loud. Each pronounces it perfectly. Loser, 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 loser. He hopes his parents won't ask him about field day at dinner, but they do. They say, "How'd it go?" "How'd what go?" he says. "Field day." "Oh, okay." Trying to sound like it's not worth talking about. "Don't ask who won," he prays. And they don't. They ask, "Was it fun? And what was your favorite race? And did you get all sweaty?" And he thinks he's out of the woods when Polly pipes up. "Did you win?" He screams at her, "No, okay?" And everybody stops chewing and stares, and he runs from the dinner table crying. He half expects his father to follow him up to his room, but he doesn't. Instead, he calls up, "Hey, want to go for a ride?" Zinkoff is always asking to go for a ride, and his father always says not unless there's someplace particular to go, or it's just a waste of gas. Zinkoff doesn't need to be asked twice. He flies downstairs, and off they go in Clunker 6. There's some chit-chat in the car, but most of it goes from his father to the jittery dashboard. "Easy there, Honeybug. No big deal. I'm right here." The rest is just a ride to no place in particular, wasting gas galore. Even in bed that night, Zinkoff can still feel the shake and shimmy of the old rattletrap, and coming through loud and clear is a message that was never said. He knows that he could lose 1,000 races, and his father will never give up on him. He knows that if he ever springs a leak or throws a gasket, his dad will be there with duct tape and chewing gum to patch him up. That no matter how much he rattles and knocks, he'll always be a Honeybug to his dad and never a Clunker. All right, guys. So one thing I'm going to say, if there's a part where I'm going to ask that you, if you choose to write about this chapter, if you need to go back and rewatch it or pause and read it again or listen again, please make sure that you do that, because I'm going to be asking you a question about what you think some things mean in this chapter. I really enjoy this one. This is probably one of my favorites, kind of a turning point in where obviously where the book gets its name, but kind of what Zinkoff feels kind of about himself too. So we'll kind of talk about that a little bit in our assignment if you're choosing to do that one. So thank you so much for listening, and I'm excited to continue reading that with you guys next week too. All right, thanks. Bye.